Kwame Nkrumah broke the barrier of being owned by the British as well as a big part of Ghana's independence by becoming the first president. He led Ghana to independence, and they became the first country in Africa to depart from British rule. The Portuguese were Europeans that first arrived in the Gulf of Guyana in West Africa in 1471. In 1482, the Portuguese first came for increased trade, then created the castle of Elmina to mark their settlement on Gold Coast. After they obtained slaves and gold in trade for goods similar to knives, beads, mirrors, rum, and guns. The news of the trade spread quickly. As a result, the British, Dutch, Danish, Persuasion, and Swedish started to arrive and built a variety of forts alongside the coastline. The name Gold Coast from the large resource of gold. The slave trade was the primary exchange and major percentage of the economy for years. During this period, the Europeans set out to conquer the Americas shortly after the Spanish and Portuguese started to export African slaves to the Caribbean and North and South America. Then, the Dutch and British entered the slave trade, supplying markets in the Caribbean coast of South America. Soon after, the Royal Trading Company was established by the Crown in 1952 to pilot its trading in Africa, replaced by the African Company of Merchants, which led the British trading after its efforts into the early 19th century. Ashanti Empire consists of people in a state in West Africa that is now modern-day Ghana. Ashanti had a series of warfare between them and the British called the Ashanti Wars. This started because Gold Coast, or modern-day Ghana, wanted to have independence. Then Sir Charles McCarthy, a British governor of the Fanti religion, rejected the Ashanti claims and led a British army of 2,500 against the Ashanti army of 10,000. Fifth and final war was a rebellion called the War of the Golden Stool. It took place from March through September in the 1900s. That conflict began when the British representative, Sir Frederick Mitchell Hodgson, sat on the Golden Stool. The stool, which was understood by the Ashanti to be a symbol of national unity. It was not a throne. And when Hodson's act became known, Ya Ashantiwa, the queen mother of the Ashanti-Hene, led a rebellion that resulted in a death of 1,000 British and Allied soldiers and 2,000 Ashanti. Both totals were higher than the deaths from previous wars combined. So the British eventually subdued the rebellion and sent Ashantiwa to exile in the Seychelles. Now, I know what you're thinking. If there was ever a beautiful place to get locked up, it would be this place. But no, it's not. You're locked up on this place, actually, with no food, no water, and just yourself and your hunger.
For war. But almost every schoolboy now knows about the Asante War. The Abna Sewa. Me, Nani Asanto to me, mammy. There's many I just say, my I have to some. Nani Asantuano, who Baba Copet, we need Pepia, we so queenie walk in foodie. Na in foodie, and I want to so near the Casepa away and Catty, and Jimmy.
Woman in the family often assumed the role of Queen Mother, and Ya Asantewaa was the Queen Mother of Ejisu at the time of repeated British colonial insults on the Asante. As Queen Mother of a powerful aristocratic family, she had immense power and influence and was among the most important leaders and elders of the Asante Empire. Traditionally, the Queen Mother chose the king and was consulted on major decisions regarding the fate of the kingdom. When Ya Asantewaa's brother died in 1894, she nominated her grandson to the post of Ejisu Hene. In the ensuing battle, for the supremacy between the invading British and the Asante Empire, the British resorted to stealthily capturing chiefs and kings of the Asante Empire and transporting them to island prisons as exiles.
On the 28th of March 1900, the new British...
In 1901 to 1902, the Ashanti is declared a British Crown colony. Kwame Nkrumah came home to Gold Coast in 1947 to become the General Secretary of the United Gold Coast Convention to work for a self-government by constitutional means. In 1948, the British briefly arrested Kwame Nkrumah along with other leaders of the United Gold Coast Convention. Then Kwame Nkrumah led the Convention People's Party in 1949. The Convention's People's Party is a mass-based party that was committed to a program of immediate self-government. Nkrumah initiated a campaign of positive action involving nonviolent protest, strikes, and non-cooperation with the British colonial authorities. After a crisis, Nkrumah was arrested. Soon after he was arrested, he participated in the Gold Coast primary election to become the leader of government and business, but instead, he became the Prime Minister of Ghana in 1952. Soon after, he became the first president of Ghana. When Gold Coast and the British Togoland Trust Territory became an independent state inside the British Commonwealth as Ghana in March 1952. Thank you, Mr. Parakin, for giving me this project and the opportunity to learn about history and breaking barriers. And I would also like to thank my dad for giving me this topic. And most of all, I would like to thank me for pushing myself to do this project.